Then it's easy.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. So, Series
Yes.
8, I can hardly believe it, can you?
I feel a lot older. It's been interesting actually because it's I think this has been very different. They found some very different hoteliers, for me to deal with.
And did they go out seeking to find different places? Did you say, can we come across some amazingly dreadful?
Well, what I said was that can we not just go on and on finding little tiny B&Bs, because there's only so much you can do, and actually that's not really my area of expertise.
No.
Although, having said that, there have been a couple of B&Bs, but there have been a couple of very, very odd places. So let's think. One of my favourites is Bonington Beach in Bournemouth, and that was 21 bedrooms but 57 beds.
Right, okay. Even my maths. So it's
50
no
quid a
room.
night per person.
Right, so you could, right.
So that was quite a challenge. That was quite a different sort of challenge.
Were they making money?
No, not really. And it was funny because they had almost 100% occupancy before. When I arrived, they had. So I did point out to them the only way of then making money was by cutting costs or putting up prices. They didn't want to put up prices, so I went on a complete slash and burn.
Did you enjoy that?
Their costs. I did actually. It was quite a nice canvas to work with. And I think I made a real difference to their business, so that was very satisfying. I don't always walk away feeling like that, so goodness knows it was a nice change.
Because when I watch you do seem to really enjoy doing this, and I think that's what the audience like.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I find my industry very, very interesting, and I love going around the country and seeing hotels or B&Bs. I mean, I get to go to lots of different areas where I would never normally go.
Yeah.
And it does keep it quite interesting, and I get to meet some completely bonkers people. And if I get to help some, I would say in this series I've got about a 50% success rate, which is higher than usual, so that's quite satisfying.
Why is your success rate being under 50%, do you think?
Just because of the material I've got to work with, darling. Why do you think? Quite often I'm called in when everything else has failed. So, if someone has big debts at their bank and has been running for quite a long time and is quite exhausted and, that doesn't really have anywhere else to turn, I don't have a magic wand. What I can do is remind them of some basic tenets of hostelry, and also try and buck up their ideas a bit. So I think sometimes I'm called in when it's too late. Sometimes I think that...
and then are you just announcing the bad news? There's nothing you can do about this. Well, you should really think of your pension.
I'm never allowed to say that, am I? Really, but
You've got to try and make it work.
I do because I understand. I think I try and keep a sense of humour because I realise that these poor benighted proprietors have usually sunk their life savings into all these properties and are kind of spending their life's blood in keeping them afloat. So I don't want to be cruel to them. If I can help them, I do, and I'd like to give them as much hope and help as possible.
I thought of you when I was in France last year because I saw a hotel for sale. It was like 100,000 euros.
Gosh.
I thought it might have been 80 rooms. I thought, God, that is incredibly cheap. It was at a spa town, I can't remember the name of it.
Gosh.
But then my wife said, no, you can't do that. So I understand how people get drawn into it. It's a dream, and you don't think about the practicalities. Is that common?
Very common and quite frustrating because, what do you think? How do you think that an 80-bedroom hotel scales up from your house?
No idea. No, my wife said it's days stretching out.
How very sensible of her. If only everyone had such a sensible partner, because I think actually people really struggle to understand the kind of parameters of what owning a hotel, running a hotel means.
So do most people just try and run it like their own version of their house on a larger scale?
I think quite a lot do. Certainly the ones who have smaller hotels. I had a very interesting one. Another one of my favourite places to go to was this one called Grimscote Manor. Actually, there's the Madonna Halley in Edgware, and there's a B&B called Milton Lodge in Dorset. I don't know how much difference I made to the B&B in Dorset, to tell you frankly, because the owners are quite elderly and they didn't really want, they wanted the impossible dream, which is to make more money on the same level of business without really changing anything. And that's not, it's quite hard to pull a rabbit out of a hat. But I added a different end to their business. I added a tea room to their business, which hopefully will make them some money. But there was one place, Grimscote Manor near Birmingham, which I absolutely loved, and I loved the owners, Jill and Steve, so much, and they worked so bloody hard.
What sort of place was it?
It was a rather suburban looking. I mean, it didn't really look like a hotel, and they'd spent so much time and effort doing it up, and in fact they'd forgotten. They kind of were too nice to their guests. They were half killing.
Is that possible?
It is really, yes, I think. It wasn't a hotel, really, and yet it was a bed and breakfast that could do evening meals. But she did a la carte evening meals all on her own. Completely. She was working, they were both working, 15, 16-hour days, and had been 7 days a week, and had been for 4.5 years.
Nothing at all.
Just exhausting. So I said, why are you making this so hard for yourself? And she did have staff, but she wouldn't train them how to do breakfast because she thought no one could do breakfast as well as her, and she wouldn't train them to do dinner. They hadn't had a day off together in 4.5 years, which you have to say isn't kind of...
Gosh, that's dedication, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what was the result? We don't want to give it away.
No, but another one, I think a hotel or a hostelry where I really managed to make a difference. And again, it does give you a little warm glow around the heart.
It does. Now, I read in the Guardian earlier about, they were recommending a place down in Margate, which I'd forgotten about this, it was the Walpole Bay Hotel, and they were bigging up all the trick-or-treat and everything that they'd stuffed into the place which you tried to get rid of, and now they're saying it was one that Alex Polizzi couldn't put a stamp on, and yet now put up as a virtue. Is quite ironic.
Well, I wouldn't care if if it was a thriving hotel. I wouldn't have had anything to say. The point was, it wasn't a thriving hotel, and I certainly wouldn't want to go and stay there.
And ironically, but the fact that you couldn't do it has put it on the map.
Well, good. I'm glad for them. I don't hold my. It's not like I'm so proud that I can't accept that I failed, failed miserably.
Yeah.
But if I managed to help them be a bit more successful despite themselves, I'm pleased. I found that a really difficult one to do.
Yeah, but commonly people do sink their own personality into place. What about this place up in the Fall of Madonna, the North London one? Is that where someone put their person? I mean, how do you deal with that?
Bonkers, but insane. Well, I don't care how people put their personality into it. You're allowed to do anything you like in your hotel, but then don't be surprised if you're missing if you're not obeying some of the basic tenets of guest accommodation, then don't be surprised that you're not successful. So this family had taken you arrive there and it looks like a suburban semi in Edgware, right? And you walk through the door, they're a Greek Cypriot family, and it was, I basically thought that they weren't really running the hotel because they were all obsessed with this project the father had started 20 years ago, which was creating this bonkers Gothic construction in the back garden of this semi. And it had Gothic pillars and arches and cupolas and, well, that's all very well.
So the hotel is the back garden? The hotel is that was just
another part of it? The hotel they didn't really bother with. They were all much more interested in. So then don't be surprised that people aren't very happy and don't really want to come and stay with you. Do that, but make sure that your beds are clean, that your rooms are well ordered, that everything is kept in good, is maintained very well. I don't have anything against people following their dreams, but then maybe, is it necessarily right that you're running a hotel at the same time?
And what about, Olympics coming up? We talked about this before, but how do you think we're set up for the Olympics hotel-wise?
You know what? I don't know enough. I don't know enough about hotels in London, really. I don't have enough opportunity, apart from 5-star. I know quite a lot about them because that's where I choose to, frequent. But I think, in general, England does guest accommodation incredibly well. our B&Bs are compare us to Italy or Spain. We do B&Bs very, very well, even compared to France, actually. We've really taken this idea of opening our home to strangers, and it's kind of become enshrined in the national psyche.
It's something we do well.
It is something we do well. And so I'm sure it'll be okay. I mean, I don't worry about... That's one aspect about the Olympics that I don't actually worry about. I worry about our creaking transport system. The fact that Londoners aren't going to be able to cross Hyde Park in their cars. That kind of thing.
Absolutely,
that worries me, but not the guest accommodation thing.
And you're not about to fly off to another channel, are you? You are doing something.
I'm doing something for BBC Two.
Yeah.
But, I did 16 shows last year. Well, between September 2010 and July, this July. And that was, over 100 days on the road. And I really need a break.
Yeah. So are you happy for it to take up that much of your life, being a hotel? Because I know you do other things. I mean, do you want...
Well, I must say that I got the balance. No fault of my own. I mean, it was nice because Five was so keen to have so much of me. But actually, it was really over-egging the pudding. And so I took 6 weeks off this summer, and I'm going to take another couple of months off at the beginning of the year. And I think, I'll do another series. They seem to want me to. But I just, it meant that Ensley really suffered because I never got to Ensley.
Yeah.
And in fact, I visited it only twice in that period. I just couldn't, when you're 3 or 4 days on the road.
And do things slip down there when you're not there?
I don't actually. I went there recently. I was incredibly impressed. I've got a fantastic manager there who worked with me for 5 years when I was running it, and she's doing bloody well. I don't know. I was very impressed with the food and how the building was maintained. I mean, of course, there's things I would do differently if it was me running it, but ultimately, I'm not getting any complaints.
Yeah.
Bookings are up. I can't really, and I don't want to micromanage her. I think that's a shit way to be a boss. If you put someone in a position of being a manager, unless something goes.
So you have to hold yourself back in a way with that. Which is ironic, given.
I have to hold myself back. I mean, obviously I comment. I mean, I didn't like the cream tea. I didn't like how it was set out. I mean, if things are really, I think, deserving of, if something's wrong, I'll say it, but not just a matter of style of management, no.
And you've got an entrepreneurial spirit. You must want to start another business.
I'm desperate to start another business. I'd love to take a real break from telly because I just think it's, I think it would be good to get back into the, back to the coalface, really.
Any ideas?
Mum and I looked at a hotel very recently, but we didn't get it, unfortunately. We made a bid on it. And if we'd got it, I would have stopped doing TV and gone back to doing that until it was opened.
Well, you could combine both.
Not really. Not that and a 3-year-old and a husband who works really hard and the hotel was going to be would have been in Cornwall, so that's quite a long way away from the centre of my activity, so I couldn't have done everything. But I'm looking at I'd like to try and do something in London. So, I mean, that's my long-term goal.
Yeah, is London the toughest hotel market to crack?
I don't know. To tell you the truth, I don't think I would do anything. I mean, I'd do something pretty quirky. I think I don't even know if it would be a hotel. It would be an F&B or a hotel or a bar or something like that. But I do long to, I would quite like to wake up more nights in my own bed, wake up more mornings in my own bed. Frankly, I think it's not very conducive to being relaxed travelling as much as I do, and also.
Do you get lonely? Because I mean, I imagine that's pretty much the sort of life of the touring actor.
I never get lonely. I never ever get lonely. And in some ways, it's a luxury because I get up in the morning and I only have to look after myself. Not my 3-year-old. Not get breakfast for her. I get up, have a shower, put on my makeup, have breakfast, and Bob's your bloody uncle. Life's bloody easy when you have to think about yourself. But I think it's not necessarily. I think my family need a bit more upkeep than I'm often giving them. And so actually I cut down in January from 4 days a week to 3 days a week, and that's a very good compromise.
Oh, great. Well, good luck with the series.
Thank you. I think it's really good, this one. I'm really pleased with it.
I'm really looking forward to it. What a shame.